In our society, being a teacher isn't ranked as a top prestigious career to have, but Chika Okorafor Anene is redefining what it means to be a teacher. She has over 23 years of teaching and 17 years of leadership under her belt. She will be talking about mindful learning during the COVID-19. Good morning, Chika.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You look really bright and radiant this morning.
Oh, thank you. I do like getting up early in the morning. It's a lovely time of the day.
Oh, that's
only quiet time when you've got children homeschooling.
Yes, so we could just delve right into our topic. Now, you've been teaching for 23 years and 17 years. You have so much experience. So tell me, why did you go into this field?
Well, it was, I found out it was a passion of mine.
Oh, okay.
I loved imparting knowledge onto children, and I actually trained in physiology, so I was very science-based, so I loved doing science. So when the opportunity came up to begin teaching science, I really, I just went headlong into it. And as I progressed in the career, I just really saw just how much of a passion and purpose it was in my life.
Okay. Now, mindful learning during COVID-19. Now, how do we guide our parents to teach their children mindfully during this COVID-19 period? Because no one expected this to come.
Yes, it's so true. And, we are all in this together. And it's really trying to teach our children and ourselves a shared humanity, a connectiveness through compassion and kindness, and using mindful techniques. And really, mindfulness is not difficult. It's a skill. We just have to remember to do it. And something that we do at Lenomic during this time has been to help parents through our education consultancy and our mindful learning platforms, how they can do this easily just through everyday tasks, bringing awareness to breathing, and really trying to slow down and just become more and more aware of our surroundings, because we are so often in autopilot, worrying about the past, worrying about the future. And really taking stock of the here and the now, and all the wonderful things that it can bring about, especially at this time where there's so much suffering and so much pain that everybody is going through. To really recognize our humanity and to share that with our children is really powerful at this point in time.
Now, for benefits of our viewers at home who haven't been exposed to mindful learning, how would you put them in a few steps on how they could teach their children now that they are at home?
Okay, so one of the things is, through any task that you're doing at home, if you can bring your awareness to your breathing, and something that we do in mindful learning is use a stop technique, which is really to stop what you're doing, sort of take some time, observe yourself, your thoughts, your breath, and that's just literally just stopping and becoming aware of our breath. We breathe so much and we don't really become aware of our breathing until we've maybe exercised and our heart is beating a little bit faster and we're breathing a little bit harder. And through that awareness of your breath, you become aware of so much more. You can become aware of things that you're hearing, the senses, and they're wonderful games that you can play with children of all ages, and as adults we benefit also.
Okay, so apart from that, now when they practice this, how else can they move forward to not just mindfully teach, but how do they see that they improve the learning skills of their children? Because now they're not in school, so how can they carefully make sure that the minds of their children are still engaged and still help them to grow knowledge within this period?
Yes, I mean, what's wonderful about becoming more aware is you become more aware of the learning around you at home. And our homes are great learning hubs once we become aware. And it's also great to talk to your children. The mindfulness really is not complete without the reflection and the talking and finding out, intelligently with emotions and compassion and kindness, how our children are feeling at this point in time. We know how we're feeling as adults, And, children are also feeling a lot, and it can become very overwhelming. And one of the things with mindfulness is the more we do it, the more we practice, the younger we start it when, children's brains are still forming, then the less likely our children may be to suffer with mental health issues and the inability to cope when things go wrong later in life.
Okay, now still speaking about mindful learning and the parents. Now, for parents who are watching this and just feel like, this just sounds so easy, but I am overwhelmed and I do not know how to prepare myself to put my children in that place in their minds. How do we actually help the parents to guiding their children to do right?
Okay. I mean, like I say, we're all in this together. I'm homeschooling at the moment with my children. Even though I'm a teacher, it still is not easy. So to recognize that there's no perfect, nobody's doing this perfectly at the time. So please don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself, be self-compassionate to yourself. And also sometimes when we just stop and we just breathe and observe our children, we actually see much more of what's going on. And, through that kindness and compassion with ourselves and our children, and we stop striving to be perfect and beating ourselves up, we actually notice what is needed at that time, because everything we have, we can get from within ourselves. And we are all in this, together. And there are so many, platforms at the Nomic. We share so much hints and tips of what parents can do, because it isn't difficult. It's just we have to become aware and do it and practice and really observe. When we observe, we see so much.
Yeah. Okay. Now,
and we actually learn a lot, because younger children are very, very mindful. Children are born mindful. They're very accepting of themselves.
Yes.
They are very resilient. They do things over and over again until they get it right. And somewhere along the line, their mindfulness gets chipped away by life and, what happens and thoughts. And, so much. So this is where we are all learning from one another at this point in time.
Okay. Now, not to digress, but just because this is a cause of concern in the country at the moment, how there are rape cases on the increase. Now, in teaching our children to be more aware of themselves and more aware of people coming around them and violating them, how can parents now begin to teach their children to be aware and to be very conscious when they have uncles or aunties who violate them and they don't even recognize that that's going on? How can we teach parents using this platform to educate their children on ways to be able to speak up? Because most of these kids don't even know what is going on with them to even know that they need to tell their parents that, okay, Uncle A or Auntie B did that to me.
Yeah, it's a terrible situation, and the world is a very scary place. And one thing I do know through the mindful learning and teaching all ages from 0 up to 18 is the more that you become aware of yourself, that you become aware of your environment. So through mindful learning, you become more aware. It also really empowers you, and it means that children become empowered. They know what feels right, what feels wrong. They also learn to trust themselves, and they find their voice. They're able to speak. They find their emotions and how they're feeling are validated. And as parents, we must validate our children's emotions from a very, very young age, so that they learn to feel confident to be able to speak to us. And we listen mindfully to what they're saying. Because, this is the thing that gives violations power, is when nobody is listening and nobody is really speaking up about it. So these things happen in secret. And very young children can learn their body awareness through songs, through games. So it's never too young and it's never too old to learn about your own safety and your own body awareness. And mindful learning brings in a lot of these things. It brings in emotions and, a lot of talking and reflecting and learning to name feelings. So if you can name it, you can tame it. And if we know how a child is feeling, we now know what is maybe happening and stop things from going and getting too dangerous before, before things happen.
All right, then. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sparing time and sharing your knowledge with us. It was really insightful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, then we're going to have to let you go now. I'm sure we've learned a thing or two on how to mindfully teach our children and also teach ourselves. We'll be going on a break. When we come back, we're going to have the top of the hour, 8 a.m. And we have so much more. Wake Up Nigeria. Don't go anywhere.